Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a story time for y'all that was sent in by a subscriber about how his grandma ended up, destroying all of his video games after watching a documentary about them being evil. Yeah, that's right. Pretty unfortunate luck. It should be a pretty good story time, though. Before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. Your grandma will destroy all of your video games. And without further ado, let's get into it. So this guy we're gonna name Kyle for the purpose of the story because, you know, that's his name, had a grandma on his mom's side of the family that he didn't really see too much. You know, she was pretty nuts and really strict, to the point where his mom had a rule with him that, any time he spent time with her, he didn't have to really remember any of the rules she suggested because it was just too over the top. She was the type of lady to get mad at you chewing with your mouth closed if you didn't do it at the right degree of an angle, you know? The type of lady to get mad at you for vacuuming too loudly and you're like, I don't know how else to do this. She was just pretty similar to a drill sergeant. And one weekend, unfortunately, there was a family emergency and his mom and dad had to go help his other grandparents with something that the kid couldn't be there for. And it happened really unexpectedly, and out of desperation, his mom was like, all right, you're gonna have to stay with your other grandma. She's gonna come babysit you for a few days and everything's gonna be okay. And obviously, this doesn't make him super confident. She's known for being mean. She's known for being over the top. But, you know, what are you gonna do? His family has an emergency. He's not gonna be selfish and make his parents not go help his other grandparents. So he's just kind of gotta suck it up and deal with the fact that his crazy grandma's gonna be watching him. Anyways, she ends up coming over, they mingle a bit, his parents leave, and the first few hours after that are pretty uneventful. She just kind of sits on the couch and starts watching TV and tells him to keep it down and be quiet. So, thinking that's his cue to skedaddle and just do anything to stay out of her hair, he goes into his room and starts playing video games, which is just kind of what you do, you know? I don't know, that seems pretty normal to me. Especially when they tell you to keep it down, that's a pretty quiet thing to do. And I understand that old people aren't the most well-versed people when it comes to technology, and they can get kind of intimidated by video games, right? But this kid was not playing a game that had anything bad in it or should be intimidating to anybody. He was playing Super Mario Sunshine on his Wii. I don't know if any of y'all have ever played Super Mario Sunshine, but, you know, it's about as chill as it possibly gets. There's really nothing bad in it. And he's been playing for a few hours, and he hears his door open, and he looks, and he sees his grandma stick her head in and asks what he's doing. But it's not oh, what are you doing? You know, it's what are you doing? It's very interrogatory. I don't know what the word would be there. She might as well have just taken him into an interrogation room and gotten a good cop, bad cop thing going on. And he replies and says he's just playing games because that's really all he's doing. There's nothing crazy going on. He's literally just sitting there playing. Well, she comes over and just starts pressing him about gaming. You know, she's asking him why this game that he's playing is so violent. Which it wasn't, dude. He was literally playing Super Mario Sunshine. That game just is not violent, you know? And he's kind of confused and oh, this isn't really that violent of a game, you know? And she's not having any of it, dude. She keeps pressing him and she starts asking really weird questions, if he hears voices in his head after playing, or if the characters are telling him to do bad things when he's done gaming. And I don't know if the only interaction she ever had with video games was a horror movie where a kid gets told what to do by Crash Bandicoot and is just all right, whatever, I'm gonna get rid of my family. But that's just not what actually happens, bro. Not once have I ever hopped off a game and been I love when Spyro the Dragon tells me to commit arson. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys. If you get off a video game and you start hearing voices telling you to do bad things, you need medical attention. And you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you might just want to stop playing video games because I don't know if they're for you. Even then though, let's say hypothetically he was, what would Mario be telling this kid to do that's that bad? If you were gonna be hearing the voice of any video game in your head, Mario is probably a good one. He'd just be encouraging you to become Italian and go to plumbing school, you know? Those would be the two things he's telling you to do. Regardless, she just keeps pressing him about it, and every question is just more and more negative, you know? And after this little Q&A session, the meet and greet was over, she just grabs the bin of games off his desk and just dumps them on the floor to start going through them. Now, this kid is 12 at the time, and he had actually just gotten Halo for his Xbox, and on the ground in all of these games is the Halo case. And his grandma sees the guy on the cover and sees a gun and obviously is just oh my gosh, are you serious? These are the type of games you play? And while holding the Halo game, starts talking about how, he's obviously getting involved in a life of crime out on the streets if he's playing violent video games. And stuff like this is gonna lead him into the territory of joining gangs. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently Halo is just like the most violent game in the world, bro. It's a terrible influence. Every guy that joins a gang got his idea from Master Chief. I don't know what Halo she was playing. Like, I've played all of them, and not once did I ever hear Master Chief be like, join a gang, kids, it's lit. Anyways, as he defends the game and she gets all pissed off and just storms out saying that she's gonna do more research, but he better not be playing these violent games when she comes back up here. And when she leaves, she slams the door. And the kid is just sitting there really confused because all of these games were games that like his parents were cool with him having. And once again, his grandma was like saying that the games were doing things that just made no sense and they weren't doing. He's like, I'm not hearing voices from Mario. I don't know what she's talking about. And believe it or not, he wasn't playing Halo and like, I need to join a gang. That just like wasn't going on. So he's insanely confused, but decides at that point, he probably shouldn't keep playing his games because she's gonna freak out. So he sees all his games on the floor, he picks them up, organizes them again, and then goes downstairs to try to avoid making his grandma more upset. But when he gets downstairs, it becomes even more confusing because, like, she's just acting normal. She's not acting mad. She's not acting like anything's wrong. She's not freaking out. It was just like she had a sudden mood change. And he's kind of like, all right, she's old. Maybe she forgot to go do research. Maybe she forgot about the games. He's just not going to press it. Maybe she, like, tried to go to the encyclopedia and look up Halo, but the only thing that kept coming up was, like, about angels, She didn't know how to use Google or something. Either way, she just kind of drops it and he's not going to press it. So he spends the rest of the night kind of watching TV and she ends up falling asleep on the couch pretty early. So he goes upstairs, plays a little bit more video games and falls asleep. The next day, though, was a school day, and Kyle obviously has to leave his grandma home alone for a bit. She's retired and go to school. And at school, nothing really crazy happens, but him and his friends are talking, and they decide that they're going to play some games later that day when they get home, which, is pretty normal for a dude to do. You go home, play games with the boys, whatever. But when he gets home, he goes upstairs, and when he opens his door, he's really confused because none of his gaming stuff is there. Like, his entire desk is cleared off. There's nothing. There's no games. It's literally all gone. So obviously he's really confused and doesn't know what's going on, and he goes downstairs to try to figure out what happened to his stuff. And he walks up to his grandma and he's like, Grandma, do you know what happened to all my gaming stuff? And when he says that, she just gets this smile on her face, bro. And it's not like a good smile. It's a smile of somebody who's about to commit some mischief, bro. Like, the smile that you get when, you tell somebody like, oh, I got Ligma or Sugma or something, and they go, what's that? And you just know you're about to just dunk on them. That was the smile. And she gets up and with an eerie smile is like, sit down, and he sits down. And she's smiling and is like, I have something that I need you to watch. I think it's going to change the way you look at stuff. You just have to give it a chance. And she turns on the TV. And on the TV is this documentary, which I'm using air quotes you can't see, because it looks like this documentary had the budget of like a middle school AV club. The camera is just a home camcorder. They're literally sitting in somebody's living room, but it's two old people, a man and a woman, and they just start talking about how video games are being used to brainwash the youth of America and, turning them into Satanists, just like all this crazy stuff, dude. I don't feel that brainwashed, whatever. Maybe that's just me. But then the really confusing part starts happening. They start showing clips of kids like in an arcade. The 80s and 90s when you didn't really have like gaming at home. You used to have to go to an arcade. And they start showing clips of kids in arcade and start talking about how, these arcades are dangerous places where kids hang out and do bad things like play video games and, they talk to the opposite gender. Like that was literally one of the things that they hated. Obviously, it's a very, very old documentary. It's made in like the 80s, and they were even old then. Regardless, for the next like half hour, he's just sitting there watching this documentary, hearing these people explain like how evil video games are and how evil they make kids. But, they're not even video games that he plays. Like, they're talking about being in an arcade and the environment of an arcade and arcade games. Okay, yeah, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I've never really gone to an arcade and played that much, dude. Like, when this documentary was made, Pac-Man was the newest AAA title, dude. Donkey Kong was impressive. And he's obviously confused, but his grandma the entire time is smiling and acting like it just makes all the sense in the world. And as I said, he doesn't really know why he's watching it, but he just has a sinking suspicion that whatever reason she's making him watch it has to do with where his video games are, and he doesn't know where they are still. So after it finishes, his grandma like takes out the VHS tape and is like, "What did you think?" And he doesn't say anything because he doesn't really know what to think about it. And she's like, "All right, well, follow me. I have to show you something." And so they go out and they go into the garage, and all of his gaming stuff, every console, every game, is just in this pile in the middle of the garage, like really close together, like stacked up on top of each other. And he doesn't really know what to make of it. And his grandma starts giving him this speech, which is basically like an evil villain monologue at this point, saying that, she has to do this to prove once and for all that the evil games are corrupting society, and these things need to be banned for the health of society and the country. Just going on and on about from the documentary how evil video games were turning kids. Like, just going off, man. None of it really makes sense. And while she's doing this, Kyle starts to smell this smell. He doesn't really know what it is, but it's really strong in the garage. It smells kind of chemically, but he can't put his finger on it. But as his grandma is finishing her speech, she pulls out a lighter, and that's when it clicks what it was. It's gasoline. Apparently, his grandma, while he was at school, had watched this documentary, decided that video games were evil, and, no one should be allowed to play them ever. They're the worst thing to ever exist, and we need to get rid of them. And then had gone into her grandson's room, gotten all of his gaming stuff, brought it to the garage, piled it up, and just dumped gasoline on it. So at this point, his grandma has coated all his stuff in gas and is about to set it on fire. And Kyle is like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" But when he starts screaming, his grandma just like touches the lighter to the edge and backs up. And as soon as that happens, everything just bursts up into flames. If you've ever lit a fire with like gas on it, you know what I mean. It pops up pretty quickly. It just kind of like bursts up into an inferno. And obviously where everything was is now just flames. So he's freaking out, screaming at his grandma. And his grandma, instead of like realizing that, maybe lighting everything on fire wasn't a good idea or anything, is just laughing maniacally like a pyromaniac who's just super excited about the fire they just started. The kid is just seeing this going on and like is obviously crying because his grandma's laughing at destroying the stuff that he loves. But then he notices that the flames from the gaming stuff that's piled up is like getting near the roof of the garage. And so now it's beyond just his like gaming stuff getting burned. The house is going to burn down. So he runs into the kitchen and grabs a fire extinguisher, darts back out, and just starts covering everything he can in the fire extinguisher. And everything is now covered in fire extinguisher, but the parts that he moves away, like, it's pretty obvious that all of the gaming equipment is done. There's melted plastic, there's like holes in the discs. It's not a good situation. Everything is fried. And when his grandma realizes that he put out the fire, she starts asking him, like, "Why did you do that? Why did you put out the fire? I set that on purpose. You're being disrespectful by putting that out." And obviously, it's proof that the games need to get banned because, if he wouldn't be playing video games, he wouldn't be disrespecting his grandma. And he's like, at that point, about to just lose it. So to prevent himself from like just swinging, he goes upstairs and slams the door, locks it, and is like, "Leave me alone. I need space." And he goes over and he picks up this phone that his mom had given him, and he calls his mom and he's like, "Mom, I love you. This is what happened. I'm okay, but this is a disaster." He's just pissed. And his mom is like, "All right, well, we're coming home today. So can you just wait a couple hours, just wait a bit." And so he hangs up the phone with his mom, and when that happens, his grandma is like pounding on the door, telling him to come out, "We need to talk, we have to talk about this, we have to have a talk." And he's like, "I do not want to talk to you, there's nothing to discuss." Which is fair. There really is not much to talk about when you just destroyed this stuff that means the world to him, like there really isn't much to talk about. You just watch this lady burn everything you like, chances are you don't want to talk to her. So, he's just sitting there as grandma's begging him to come out. And finally, he hears his mom pull in and his mom and dad come in. And his grandma starts being like, "Your son is da-da-da-da-da, being crazy, disrespectful, all this stuff." And he comes out and is like, "Grandma lit my games on fire." And the mom looks very confused, like, "Okay, I thought you were maybe exaggerating a bit." And he takes her to the garage and just shows her the pile of rubble where all of his gaming stuff was. And his grandma is like, yeah, I did it. You know, your son was evil. You need to make sure that my grandson grows up right. I refuse to apologize for it. And his mom is just kind of letting her mom talk, looking at this pile of stuff. And then finally, she just looks at her mom and is like, get out of my house. And her mom is like, get out. Why? Why do I need to leave? Like, I was just doing the right thing. And his mom starts going off about how that's like $3,000 of gaming stuff that they had bought for their son. And even if she thought it was evil, does she have any idea how much money it was all worth? And, you know, it's not her son. It's not up to her to decide like what he does and doesn't do. And if she feels like her son can play video games, then that's all that matters. And you would think the grandma at that point might maybe realize that like, I might be a little bit in the wrong, but you would be mistaken. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. On screen now is actually a PlayStation gift card. For those of you that don't know, I give away a PlayStation gift card or a gift card in every single video I post here on this channel as a way to say thank you to you guys for subscribing and turning on those notifications. So if you haven't already, be sure to do that. And if you already have, then big thank you. You guys help out the channel a lot, and I'll shut up and get back to the video. Thanks. The grandma really felt like what she did was justified because, like, she really felt like her grandson was just on a path towards destruction, which I don't really know that that's what gaming is. I mean, definitely not going outside as much. I'll have to give her that, but I really don't understand why old people think video games are so evil. I mean, sure, a lot of the themes are weird, but, like, I don't know. I feel like they've been out long enough for us to know if they were making people go nuts. World of Warcraft's almost 20 years old. If being exposed to warlocks made people go crazy, everybody in that game would be nuts. Anyways, the argument between the mom and grandma ensue, with the mom repeatedly saying, even if you felt that way, like, you just burned so much expensive stuff that didn't belong to you. And the grandma just keeps doubling down, saying that, like, she did it for a good cause and she'd do it again. And that's when, finally, the mom, who had been telling her to get out this time, is like, you need to leave or I'm calling the cops. And the mom is like, you wouldn't dare call the cops on me. Do you have any idea how disrespectful it would be to call the cops on your own mother? And then the daughter just says, do you have any idea how disrespectful it would be to burn $1,000 of stuff that you don't own? Pretty disrespectful. And I think at that point, the grandma kind of realized that even though she thought she was in the right, it didn't matter because legally she was in the wrong. So she decides to skedaddle, but before she leaves, she of course has to be like, you're the reason that my daughter and I hate each other because you just won't give up your horrible ways, talking about her grandson playing video games. Yeah, all of this is the grandkid's fault. It's not you being crazy. It's not you overstepping and like lighting stuff on fire. It's the fact that he likes video games that makes your daughter not want to hang out with you. I mean, even before all this went down, bro, he still wasn't really down to be chilling with you. Now, I really don't think that's the case. So, whatever, they ended up kind of going their separate directions for a bit. But what's wildest about all of this is, like, from that point on, for whatever reason, the grandma had just decided to just hate this grandkid. Like, she would constantly post these things on Facebook for each grandkid's birthday about how proud she was of them. And when it was his birthday, she literally posted something wishing that, like, he eventually escapes the evil clutches of video games. To this day, dude, this old lady still thinks she's right, which is wild to me. You'd think at some point you would get, like, some reality cooked into you that it's not cool to light other people's stuff on fire. But hey, I guess for some people that just never comes, you know, probably a little bit easier to live life without any guilt for anything. I will say, definitely making me appreciate my grandmothers more than I already do. But I think the worst part of this is that his grandma also got, like, his family uninvited to all the Christmas events because, you know, she's the grandma. So she just went and told all of his aunts and uncles and everybody that, like, he had, you know, basically, like, tried to attack her while playing video games. So they're all on the grandma's side because she just capped about it so hard. They can't come to Christmas because, as you know, those evil video games be corrupting everything. They ruined our family. Do you think she just blames Halo, bro? Like, Master Chief is the most hated person at every family event because they think that he's the reason this family went nuts? Not worth it, dude. Anyways, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you guys just taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought, and subscribe if you're new. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment what you would do if somebody burned all your gaming stuff down. Would you cry? Would you yell? Like, I don't know. Other than that, if you really, really want to support the channel, if you drink G Fuel, the best energy drink for gamers, by gamers, you can use code SCRUBBY at the checkout to get yourself a little bit of a discount. Pretty fantastic if you ask me, considering how dope G Fuel is. Other than that, on screen now is actually the coolest merch to ever exist in the history of the planet, and if you go in the description, you can get some as well. Pretty fantastic if you ask me, even though I'm a little bit biased. Other than that, I do have a podcast as well, known as the Scuffed Cast. You can find a link to that in the description too, and yeah, on that note, guys, I think that's everything that I actually got to plug. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.